Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth round of the season of the Gavra Weekend League Tier 1. I'm Jack TM53, your commentator, as always, and we're at a very wet and blustery Spa-Francorchamps circuit here in Belgium. The drivers are out on circuit in these challenging conditions, but before we go into detail on what's out on circuit, I want to give you a quick rundown of the current championship standings. So after his victories last week in Austria, Josh Trekvoss leads the way in the championship, the first time he's done so after his first race victory, and he'll be chuffed to pieces with that. Excuse me. But he is currently leading the championship on 98 points. Ben Roberts is second on 80, with an X-Natty G third on 78, and Psycho in fourth on 75. Fifth place is Money Game with 47. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes lead the way on 122, but Haas are close behind on 110, as are McLaren on 109 and Ferrari on 102. Top four teams all fighting hard to stay in control of the Constructors' Championship battle, with Williams rounding out the top five on 54 points. But this circuit, steeped in history, of course, is Spa. Lots of action, of course, and in this weekend's Grand Prix, there's been a lot of wet weather running and shock horror. We've got it here, but Josh, the first man to set a lap time, and he is fastest by some margin at the moment, as Ben Roberts goes across the line to sit at 53.1. Now, Josh, being the championship leader, has home advantage here. The Belgian, he lives about 15 minutes away from the circuit in the Ferrari, and he is surely going to be one of the favourites for this evening's action here in Tier 1. But this wet weather isn't easy for drivers to deal with. We do have a new driver in for this evening, I believe. It's TGT Chris, 97 in the Red Bull. He's just to third place, I believe. He's brand new. So that's a good opening start for your lap. See how everybody else gets on. Money Game is out there on wet tyres, and I don't think it's wet enough for those. Could be wrong, but Money Game has decided to do something just that little bit different. Predator is having a lot of difficulty getting into this section, which is a shame. Hopefully we can get him in later on or during a session. Born Winners got into the 52s, but that effort from Josh already as we move into the second third of the session. That time from Josh is so impressive. He's 6/10 clear of Watts. Now, whether that's a case of the track is now getting wetter, it's harder for the tyres to displace more water, there's less grip for the intermediates, we don't know. But regardless, 6/10 is a huge margin. Watts has done a good time, as has Born Winner. And Joss has gone even quicker with a 51.2. The Ferrari driver is having an absolute field out there at his local track. Showing everybody how it's done. So Haas of Ben Roberts, who's just on a 52.1, so maybe it isn't a case of it getting wetter out there. Maybe it's starting to ease up a little bit, because that's a big improvement from Ben. See if anybody else improves as they come across the line. That's one of the McLarens, X90G, that's just crossed the line on a 53.6. He did say last week, X90G, he's on a run of 4 podiums, but he did say he's not thinking about the championship despite being second. Let's see how he gets on, though, this evening. Money Game's still out there on the wet tyres. I'm baffled as to what Money Game is trying to achieve. He's the slowest driver out on set a lap time. Sure enough, he's pulled into the pits now, because even I was a bit confused as to why he was carrying on. But he can get back in, put a set of intermediates on, and hopefully go a lot quicker than what he's already done. Psycho currently 4th in the championship standings, the championship leader at one stage is on a lap. Shari on an outlap as well. Billy Misu staying in the pits for the time being. Steps up in 6th place at the moment. JMB Surreal in 13th. Those are our two tier 2 drivers, also competing in tier 1. Now it's funny to say this because in tier 2 earlier this evening, we didn't actually have any wet weather running during the session. Any of the sessions, even qualifying, was completely bone dry, but we've already got a wet qualifying here so far. Billy Misu has put a comment into the Twitch chat. Billy, could you tell us what the forecast is, if you know, for the race ahead? We're not sure what it is. It'd be great to know. See if well, I was going to say our most accurate pit lane reporter, because he literally is in the pits. Ben Roberts has spun before he's got to the braking zone. Oh no. Oh no. Ben Roberts is out of the session. I've got to say, that was with contact with our Peter. Ben Roberts was reversing onto the track after he'd lost it and kind of reversed into almost into the way of our Peter, but that is not ideal. Not ideal at all. So Ben Roberts, one of the championship protagonists, is out. If it gets any drier, his lap time is going to fall by the wayside. That was a very odd accident. I'm not quite sure what's happened there between himself and our Peter, but there we are. So everyone else now just trying to get some lap time in whilst the session is still running. Our pit lane reporter is saying that it's a little bit rainy with sun, says for a race, so maybe we're going to have some mixed weather conditions. We shall see. TGT Chris is one of the drivers looking to improve on their lap. Dino out there as well in the Red Bull. Now Psycho, it's just in sector 2, exited sector 2 now, so runs a little bit too wide there, did Psycho. This is really important, this run up towards the final couple of corners as he swings through Blanchimont. No problem about taking it flat through that corner at all. Stamps on the brakes, down into 3rd gear for the bus stop chicane. And he's navigated that quite nicely. As Psycho, this looks like a decent lap from the Mercedes, and it is. It's a 52 flat, puts him provisionally on the front row of the grid, so good one for him. And Billy Misu now is also out on circuit, so good news. We're going to probably see a lap time from everybody. Money Game now also out on the intermediates. Shari's there. Kev Potter is there as well. Good to see Kev Potter back in, of course. So could be mixed conditions for the race. We'll soon find out. But the drivers are all in different parts of their qualifying stage now. Lots of them, some of them are on their out laps, quite a few of them are in the pits, some of them are now on flying laps because of how they've like sort of timed their exit from the pits. Those that are on the pit, those that are out now doing their flying laps, they'll have a chance to do one more lap, I believe. They should have enough time to get round and back in the pits. Be very tight on time, but not improbable for the drivers to be able to do that. There's a yellow flag out there, but not because anyone's spun, it's just because someone's slowing down before Eau Rouge and Radion. But at the moment, we're just following a couple of cars going on to the back straight there before Blanchimont. Oh, big wiggle from Born Winner on this lap. He's really pushing hard. There's a man who came into his own last week. He nearly won around Austria. Didn't quite work out for him. completely flat through Blanchimont, no problem at all. Up to about 203 miles an hour on the brakes. Got to really work hard to get it stopped in time for the corner, which he has done. And then back on the power. And it's an improvement which puts him 5th on a 52.6, but he's still a second away from Joss's time, which is super impressive at this point. I think Born Winner should just about get back in time to do another lap. I think he'll just about have enough time to do it. But he'll only have one flying attempt at it. The Steps is out there as well. In the Haas. Just coming onto the brakes. Bus stop. He's got the Alpine just in front of him. Or rather the Williams, he's just overtaken. Oh. I think that compromised. I think that compromised Steps there. I think Watts sort of just got in the way a little bit. And that had to put Steps on an alternative line. Watts was trying to get out of the way of him because he's now on a flying lap himself. Last week's race winner, race 2 winner, was the Williams, his first ever in Gavra. But Watts coming down the Kemmel straight at this point. Now the cars in Tier 1 earlier, they were hitting 210 mile an hour down the main straight. Our Peter has crashed out and he's lost it on the exit of Stavolo. And that's quite a big accident he's had. A huge one through there. Just following the Steps at the moment. We're just behind one of the Ferraris, which I believe is Joss, who's now on his outlap. I mean, the real question does become, who can beat Joss this evening? He is looking absolutely fantastic. He's got 4/10 almost to Psycho, but I almost feel that Joss can go quicker than that. He's got the home crowd behind him. His local knowledge will be really helping him around this circuit. And people cannot underestimate how strong local knowledge is of a race circuit. I think that's something that people don't realise, is when you have a track that's within 20 minutes of your own home, you know that circuit off the back of your hand if you just visit different events. And that gives you an extra boost to be racing around there, and that's what Joss is using, that home advantage. Steps though coming into the braking zone, and he's going to go on to another lap. He's going to build onto that now. Joss right in front of him is going on to a lap. That's a great effort from Watts to go up to second though. Wonderful lap from him to do a 51.8. But can Joss now improve that time? We shall wait and see how this lap plays out. Coming through Eau Rouge, little snap through Eau Rouge, but he was fine with that, completely planted. Down the Kemmel straight he comes, 205 miles an hour, right on the maximum limit. Got a yellow flag in front of us, I think that's just for a slow car. Through Les Combes, round Malverdy. Again, nice and smooth application on the throttle for Joss. Brake into Bruel. Use second gear, upshifting early, keeping the traction limited through there. Devori's now out of the session. He's just retired in the pits. Approaching Pouon at 190 miles an hour, down to 5th, upshifting to 6th early. Another little wiggle through the corner, but Joss completely committed on this lap. Into the Fagnes chicane. Takes a wide line into the corner. Might have run a little bit too deep into Fagnes then. And then again into 3rd gear using a tiny bit of curb. He's not improving on this lap as Joss, I have to say. I think Joss has backed out of using his ERS as well. He's saving a bit, I think, a little. So maybe he's going to do another push lap with just a few moments remaining in this session. Watts is another one. Watts is cruising really slowly. I think he's trying to get a little bit extra fuel saved up for the lap. Dino's in 10th place. We have finished. Kev Potter has seen the checkered flag, so he is not going to improve on 13th. Oh, the Red Bulls, that's Dino coming into the final corner now. What's this lap time going to be from the Red Bull? It's an 8th. Decent effort. Good to see who will cross the line next. I think it's going to be one of the Mercedes. So that will be Psycho, who goes fastest with a 51.4. Great effort. And the home fans will be hoping that Joss can beat that, but that's a great lap from the Mercedes. What about Money Game? Can he improve? He can, but he's only 11th. Red Bull of TGT Chris has seen a checkered flag. It's game run and done for him. What about Shari? He's last at the moment. Gets himself off the bottom. He's into 15th. The McLaren of it's the Aston Martin rather of Advantage next. He goes up to 8th. Puts himself in front of X90G. Born Winner ends up in 7th place. J&B Surreal out on circuit. He improves to 14th. So it's just the Steps and Joss who are left on their laps. Now I think Joss is improving by the looks of it. Championship leader, home favourite. He's got to step up now in that Ferrari. He's going to come onto the brakes at the bus stop. He's got to stamp on them hard, get it turned in. Not a bad line from the Ferrari. He's got to put the power down. Can he get enough traction? Can he take pole position back? Yes, he can. It's a 51.3 from Joss, and he gets pole position for Ferrari here in Belgium, just like they did in this year's Grand Prix. It's Ferrari first, Mercedes second. That's a good effort from Psycho to get himself on the back of Joss, though, who's looked very good today. What's his third? Good effort from TGT Chris on his debut to get onto the second row of the grid. He'll be very happy at that. Ben Roberts, despite going off, well, I say going off early, but despite that incident with himself and Arpita earlier, will start from 5th place. So that's kind of, he's not lost too much out of that. He won't be pleased that he retired from the session. So let's have a look through these qualifying standings then. Joss is on pole position, Psycho second, Watts and Chris on the second row of the grid, with Ben Roberts and the Steps on the third row of the grid. Good effort from the Steps to be on the third row. Born Winner and Advantage on the 4th row, with X90G and F1 Dino rounding out the top 10. Money Game and Billy Misu are on row 6, with Kev Potter and J&B Surreal 13th and 14th. Devori and Shari 15th and 16th, and Arpita at the back of the grid in 17th place. I can see what happened now. So Ben Roberts was saying that he had no fuel when he sort of lost the back end, and he didn't want to get disqualified, so he... Dina told me that TGT Chris is Viper. Did not know that. I didn't know that. Well, Viper, who's had a new name change, is now TGT Chris. So we've got a dry track by the looks of it for the start of this first race of the evening. 35%. TGT Chris turns out isn't a debutant, but he's a debut PSN name, is what we'll say. And can Chris show up and perform? We will see. Dino, if you're wondering who I'm responding to here, ladies and gentlemen, Pusher Dino has said in the Twitch chat, I'm F1 Dino. I know. I know. I can tell. But in any case, we are moments away from the race start for the first one of the evening with Gavra Tier 1. And the race is live from Spa. Looks like a good start from the front row, and Josh should be able to keep the inside line into turn 1, but Psycho's going to try and go all the way around the outside. Can he get the traction he needs to take the lead into turn 2? Yes, he can. Great start from Psycho to take the lead of this race. Just behind them, it's Watts and Chris side to side. Surely they can't get away with that. They have just about. Good car control from Watts. Oh, 3 wide down the main straight between the McLaren, the Haas and the Williams. These 3 need to keep it as clean together as they can whilst they're getting on with it, and they do fortunately sort themselves out. Wow, that was brave racecraft between everybody. But Psycho leads, Joss is second, Chris is third, Steps is fourth, Ben Roberts is in fifth, Born Winner sixth, Watts seventh, Advantage 8th, Money Game 9th, and X90G on the hard tyres in 10th place. But that was a wild start, but Psycho will be the happiest of the lot, and the home crowd will be cheering Joss on to try and get through them, but he's under pressure from Chris, who's on those soft tyres, and he will want to try and make a move as quick as he can to get past Psycho as well, to try and skate off into the lead with those red Pirelli compound tyres. And you see how much pressure he's putting Joss under right now. He will probably look to try and use a little bit of ERS down the main straight, but he's not quite close enough to the back of the Ferrari, and if anything, the Ferrari is absolutely motoring along in a straight line. Has caught up to the back of Psycho, who's having to use a little bit of ERS here, and Josh is going to look to the outside, doesn't quite commit to the move and sticks behind for the time being, but look at Chris is all over the rear wing, and the top 9 cars are so close together at the moment as they cross over the start-finish line for the first lap. They are all fighting exceptionally hard, but they all want a slice of that race victory. And all of these drivers look capable of getting a race victory this season. And look at Chris this time round. On the outside line towards Les Combes he comes. He's going to have the slipstream of Psycho in front of him. He's going to use that to good effect. Can he brake a little bit later than the Ferrari? He's going to try it around the outside. And Josh is going to have to give the space, which he does, and Chris up to second place. That is a great start for the Red Bull, up into second place now, and can he go after Chris? Josh is looking vulnerable in these early stages because Ben Roberts now is all over the rear wing of that Haas. And Ben Roberts will want to try and find a way through past his old Tier 2 sparring partner. And you got the Steps, Born Winner, Watts, Money Game, Advantage, the whole field right the way down to, well, right the way down to 18 for all within a second of one another. So this is a huge train of cars, all fighting for loads of position. But I've got to say, Joss has dropped out of DRS I should say. Just then, he's managed to close the gap down. But DRS, of course, activated on the next lap, so the third lap. Some movement going on for the lower placings as well. But Chris is going to want to come back to Gavra with a bang. And he's showing his form now. There you go, fastest lap for Chris, formerly known as Viper. Into third gear, DRS enabled. So let's see, is he going to be close enough to the back of the Mercedes to get alongside for a move into turn number 5 at Les Combes? He's going to have his DRS wide open, but I think the one who's under pressure a little bit is Joss, because he's got Ben Roberts right behind him as well, coming towards Les Combes, but no one's close enough for an overtake, and they all slot themselves through quite nicely as Kev Potter re-overtakes Shari for 12th whilst that's going on. But these front 4 certainly have a lot of pace. The Steps is keeping up well with the medium tyres. All winner there, then there's Watts, then it's Money Game Advantage. Billy Misu's just a second out of touch here really at the moment. If he can close that gap, get back into DRS range, he'd be in a really good position. X90G's kind of on his own at the moment, and then Kev Potter's fighting with everybody else behind him. But so far, so tense. Look at this time, Chris again closing the gap. on Psycho. He wants to get a move on with this overtake. Will he look to the outside at turn 18? No, just backs off. Oh, a little bit of a lock for the rear tyres, which a lot of drivers have been struggling with. I've seen in Tier 2 and Tier 1, and Ben Roberts sniffing an opportunity against Joss here in a Ferrari. He just wasn't quite close enough to make an overtake, and what re-overtakes Money Game in the background. Money Game trying to make something happen in these early stages with those soft tyres. But Ben is right underneath the rear spoiler of that Ferrari. And he might have a chance here, might Ben. Look at this, the DRS is wide open. He's got all the ERS he needs to use. And look at Chris also trying to go around the outside. Contact between the race two at the front. Chris has just about kept it in a straight line. He's going to lose a load of spots though. The two of them just didn't want to give it up. And Ben Roberts is trying to go around the outside at Bruel, but that's probably not going to happen. And he has to sit behind the Mercedes. But that was two drivers just not wanting to give up there. No more than a racing incident, but Chris will be very frustrated at what's just occurred. And he'll have to do all of the overtakes that he's just done all over again. So now it's Ben Roberts' turn to take up the mantle to try and overtake Psycho on the soft tyres. Now, one thing that Ben's got to be careful of, which has cost him a few times this season, is track limits. Something that a couple of drivers have already picked up time penalties for, but nobody else wants to do that. Track limit penalties around here are quite tricky. Look at Ben just closing the gap to Psycho, but just picking his line where he needs to and just putting his car right in the wing mirrors of Psycho so he knows he's there. Although Psycho went very deep into the bus stop. And this might need to be just a good exit from Ben. DRS open, up the inside, and he should brake a little bit later, does he? He does, and he goes through and he takes the lead of the race. Problem with that though is that he's going to have to use a bucket load of ERS to keep in front of Psycho, which is going to be very difficult, especially with Joss and Born Winner being very close to the back of these two. Here we come then, DRS down the back straight. Joss is going to look to the outside. They're going to go free wide. Psycho's gone past Ben, as has Joss. And through go those two, and Born Winner trying to go through as well. He's picked up a time penalty, which I think is quite harsh. But that's what I mean, when you're fighting with everybody else, you've got to be careful. And Ben took the lead too early. Lost the DRS, Psycho went past and Joss went with him. So Psycho leads the race again. Joss there in second place. And the two medium runners, and Chris picks up a time penalty, so that's not ideal. He's up to fifth though. This is what I was saying, that the penalties around here are quite tricky. They're quite harsh, and the drivers have to be wary of that. If they keep picking up more time penalties, they're going to get into trouble for it. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2, and that is Devori. He's had a bit of a trip somewhere. One person who's already pitted, I didn't pick up this, is the fact that Dino's pitted. Joss is looking to the outside of Psycho into turn 18. Not going to get close enough to overtake the Mercedes, but he's going to give that car something to think about. Now, I didn't mention this, but when Dino pitted, that might be a good time for him to have gone in so that he can undercut everybody else around him. But I have noticed that the clouds have descended a little bit here at Spa, and I wonder if that's why X90G went for the hard tyres, maybe gambling with rain later on. Joss, though, this should be a regulation move for the race lead for Joss. He flies on through, no problem at all. Will Ben Roberts follow him as well? Can't imagine Psycho's going to be able to defend that, and he can't. And Ben, providing he gets his line right, just about manages to keep second place. So Ben moves into the top two. There's a yellow flag out there. Shari's out, and it's a virtual safety car. And Shari has gone out down the main straight. This is the second time in Gavra this evening that we've had a car crash out on the main straight. I guarantee that's because cars are coming together down the main straight and not giving each other enough room. And that's what's caused this virtual safety gap. Now this just slows the speed down of everybody. They've got to set themselves to a certain pace. They can't exceed the pace, otherwise they get a drive-through penalty. I don't think Sherry will be too pleased about having crashed out. And we're back underway, back up to racing speeds again. Psycho was right with Ben Roberts. He might be close enough to try and look at a move. I don't think he's going to do it on this run towards the penultimate corner, as the Predator now picks up a time penalty. But the top six all very close together, and again a little snap of the rear tyres on the brakes for Ben as he went into that corner. He's certainly struggling a little bit more as Chris moves past the steps for 5th place. But he's definitely struggling with the tyres a little bit more into the braking zones is Ben than anybody else. And I've noticed a couple of other cars also having little snaps of oversteer from time to time. But it's been a good race so far. It's been exciting to watch. Now Ben's going to have DRS on Joss, and that should be moved done. No problems at all. He gets into 1st place. Everybody else is still in position. Watts does get past advantage, having said that. Although he picks up a time penalty just as he goes through, so that's not going to help him at the end of the race. Now we're on lap 7, and we did see in the first race a couple of drivers coming in very early for the soft compound tyres. They came in on lap 5, so these guys clearly able to extend the range of the red wall tyre you can see on their cars. What are leader Ben and Born Winner and TGT Chris, those three all running the soft tyres. Yellow flag out there for one of the other Red Bulls, which is Dino. I think he's had a little spin out on track. But the key thing here is, and I'm looking at the drivers of X-Natty G and R Peter. They have the hard tyre on, and it's raining. Yeah, I was literally just about to say, wondering whether they'd pick the hard tyres because the rain was coming. And sure enough, Born Winner decides to pit now and get on a new set. But it has started raining here at Spa, and I'm thinking the drivers who started on the hard compounds were hoping it wouldn't come this early, maybe a lap or two later, to save them pit stop. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think everyone else now is going to try and just survive with the tyres that they've got left. But this certainly throws up a new strategy plan into everybody's mind in terms of how they're going to respond to the rain. The Predator picks up another time penalty, but this time for speeding in the pit lane. It's not heavy enough though at the moment, I've got to say. So those that are on the soft tyres are really going to be struggling at this point with their tyre life. Kev Potter's picked up another time penalty, having said that. Kev now has... It says he's got 6 seconds worth of time penalties, which is interesting. Now the Predator has pitted for intermediate tyres. He's the first one to go out there. I don't know if it's heavy enough at the moment for the intermediates. He's been overtaken by Devori as if he wasn't really there. But he is the driver who's out there trying it out. Now this could be a good call for the Predator, but I just think it's a lap too early. Maybe even 2 or 3 laps too early, to be honest. And sure enough, he's losing time hand over fist to Devori, so I don't think that move's going to pull off. Back at the front, the situation sort of stabilised between everybody. Money Game overtaking R Peter. Ooh, a little bit of contact between the two. R Peter, well known as a driver who does not give no quarter. He's got Born Winner trying to go all over the back of him. The Steps has gone into the pits. Now the Steps was on the mediums. I wonder if he's going to try and brave the intermediates. I wonder if that's the strategy that he's going to use. Just watching the Steps. He's coming into the pits now. We're watching the fights on track, of course. And it is intermediates for the Steps. So he's going to try and do something different. He was in that fight for the race lead. Is it wet enough out there? That's the main question. The Predator's lost 3 seconds to Devori on that lap alone. Steps is going to rejoin out on track. He's just going through Eau Rouge now, so he's got a little bit of time to play with by himself. But he's got no speed compared to Billy Misu, who's just going to fly past him. I think it might have been a lap too early for those inters. Chris getting all sorts of sideways on the exit of turn 9, I was just watching. DRS has not been disabled yet, so clearly race control don't feel that the rain is heavy enough for a pit stop, or rather DRS to be disabled. And typically when that happens within the game, it normally means it's time for intermediates. There are other drivers who are on the inters, including Kev Potter. Steps is keeping up with Billy Misu though. Oh, someone else has just gone off the road in the background. I'm just watching a load of all very, very interesting out on track at the moment. Is anybody going to pit? No. Ben Roberts, the front three carry on, as does Chris. I'm just looking to see further back. No, nobody else deciding to pit yet. So it looks as if it's just not quite heavy enough. Looking at the gap between the steps and the race leader, the gap now, as JMB Surreal and R. Peter go into the pits, I'm assuming they're going to put intermediate tyres on. Steps is 23 seconds behind Ben. He wasn't far, and a pit stop around Spa is about 18, 19 seconds. I don't think the Steps is going to gain much from this or do anything in particular, unfortunately. I think it's a strategy call that hasn't quite worked out as Watts goes past advantage for 5th place. Lots of action all over the circuit. Money Game and Born Winner having a good fight. Born Winner out in front on this occasion. He's got past Money Game now. But the rain just isn't heavy enough at the moment. And the drivers out there now on circuit are really going to be struggling with the heat in the tyres that they desperately need. The soft tyres will also be exceptionally in a difficult place now because they just won't have any tread left. And the amount of grip that they've got available to them will be falling away corner after corner. You can see that Chris, who's in 4th place now, has dropped 4 seconds to the cars in front. It's a testament to how quick Ben Roberts is driving. But he won't be in the lead for much longer because the guys on the mediums, they'll feel that they can get past him. And sure enough, Ben goes into the pits. And Psycho's joining them in the pits. So Ben and Psycho deciding that that's enough of that. Chris decides the same thing. Watts carries on, Advantage does. I imagine X90G will carry on. He does indeed. Because it's just not... I don't think it's quite wet enough yet, personally. And Chris has put on medium tyres. Just looking to see what the other two have put on in front of him. Ben's on the intermediates. And Psycho's on the softs. Well, now, is that a mistake from the pit crews? Is that because they haven't changed their tyres in the correct form, or what has gone on there? But Ben Roberts on the intermediates now. Will this strategy pay off for him? Joss leads the way. He's got an 8.7 second advantage. I'm going to watch the gap between Ben and Joss because that is critical to see whether... It's critical to see whether or not that this strategy is going to work, whether it's time for intermediates or if it's still dry enough for the Pirelli dry compounds. And Ben is closing the gap to Joss, so it's definitely wet enough now. It is certainly wet enough, and I think that Psycho, I don't think he intended to go for the soft tyres. He's also closing the gap to Joss, it has to be noted. I'm just seeing the gap between himself and Ben is... Well, Psycho's closing the gap to Ben, so this is all up in the air, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of which way this is going to go. Because it's really unpredictable. It's not raining as heavily as I thought it was going to, and now Joss bolts into the pits. So on the medium tyres, Joss decides it's time to get rid of those, and he'll certainly go for the intermediates, I would imagine. Watts goes in, Advantage carries on. X90G carries on as well. And Joss goes for the intermediate compound. Well, this is anybody's guess as to what happens next here, because I believe DRS is still enabled. Just going to watch the rear wings of the cars as they come up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Yeah, DRS is still inactive, so Ben will just slipstream up the back of X90G without a problem at all and go through into third place. And Ben Roberts, who's a couple of seconds ahead of Joss, looks like he could be on his way to winning this race, providing he doesn't make any mistakes. Psycho's up to full. Psycho's going at the same speed. We're in this amazing position. I've never been able to commentate on a position like this before, where the intermediate tyre and the soft tyres are as fast as one another. And that's proven to be an amazing turn of events here at Spa. And now we get to see a huge battle go on between our championship rivals. Oh, big snap of oversteer for Psycho as he went through Fania chicane there. But this is really fascinating. Joss goes past X90G, who I think is more struggling now with those hard tyres. He will definitely have to pit, of course, because he's not done that yet, but he's going to have to make a decision on whether he goes for the soft tyres, which are working with Psycho, or the intermediates. I imagine he's going to go for the inters, but we will wait to see what happens. And and Natty G's picked up a time penalty. That is not ideal for him. He is coming into the pits now. Where this will leave him, I imagine Natty's going to be out of the points now. So Born Winner leads the way, but Psycho is past Ben Roberts on the soft tyre. But there's no denying it, it is getting wetter. This is unbelievable. Look at Psycho, he's just going to blast on past Born Winner with DRS. And he goes through. Ben Roberts is going to do the same. And he gets through as well. And Born Winner goes from first to third in absolutely no time at all. But this is absolutely brilliant racing between everyone at the moment who's decided to watch in here at Gavra. I'm sure you're all enjoying it too, because the top four are all within about 2 seconds of one another. Steps is way back now in 5th place. Then you've got other cars such as Billy Misu and Chris who are on dry tyres. Natty G did go for the softs in the end. So this rain perhaps isn't going to be wet enough for the intermediates to use the full effect of the intermediates. Predator has crashed at Eau Rouge and Raidillon. He's out. Too late in the race for a safety car to come out though. So can Psycho make that advantage pay with his soft compound tyres? We've got 2 laps remaining after this. And this will be a big uptick in performance and rate for his championship hopes for Psycho. But Ben Roberts won't give up, not with that car. It's certainly not a quitter. Born Winner's just starting to fall back into the clutches of Joss. And I don't think the medium tyres are as quick as the intermediates in these conditions. I think if you're going to go for the dry tyres at this point in the race, it has to be the soft and the softs only. But even there's it, because looking at the approach to turns 3 and 4 through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, it looks like the rain's a lot heavier there, but not around the rest of the circuit. And Chris is out. Chris is retired from the session, so that's 3 cars out. Ben's closing the gap down to Psycho, but he's not quite close enough. Joss is only 2 seconds back. I think the rain's getting a little bit heavier now. At different parts of the track. I'm watching the gap between the other drivers around the circuit. And I'm thinking that the intermediates are just starting to come into their own a little bit more than what the softs were. Kev Potter's now retired from the session, which is ideal because he kept cutting the chicane. It must have been if he was getting a 10-second time penalty every time he did it. So that's 4 cars gone free in a space of 1 lap, but Psycho still leads despite the increased rain. The soft tyres just about hanging on. He's just kept the temperature in them. Natty G's up to 8th as we speak. Don't think Natty's going to get any higher than that though today in this session. Ben looks like he's got a lot more confidence on the brakes on those inters. Doesn't quite have the same traction though that Psycho does. We are on the final lap. The top 3 covered by a second. And I think Ben's going to try and maybe not just go for it on the camel straight. If he doesn't get past him on the camel straight, I think he'll try somewhere else around the lap, because he certainly looks like he's got a little bit more lateral grip than the Mercedes. Oh, having said that, he ran over the curb at Radion. He might just be in a position to make an overtake. Here comes the Haas. Look at the straight line speed of Ben Roberts. He's on the inside into turn 1. The 2 race leaders make contact. Ben has to go over the curb and the gravel. He gets away with it. Ben goes round the outside as Psycho takes the lead of the race. Psycho has a huge wobble as he come back together. But Ben gets the lead on the last lap. And I feel that might be it for Psycho. I think the wet weather has just put the soft tyres out to pasture. And he's going to be vulnerable to Joss behind him. This has been a wonderful race in the end, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a lot of action. But Ben has got a 7/10 gap. He's sliding all over the place, but he should just about survive. It depends on whether Psycho can hold off Joss here. Here we go then, around the final couple of corners we've got to go. Ben Roberts just has to hold on through these last couple of corners. Round Blanchimont he goes. Joss is not quite close enough to the back of Psycho. Unless he's brave enough. Oh, he goes deep. Ben Roberts is going to win the race today. Ben Roberts takes the victory here for race 1. Psycho finishes second, just ahead of Joss in third. Born winner gets 4th in the end. He lost so much time on that last lap. He nearly got caught by Watts, who finished 5th. Steps will come home in 6th position to make that 7th, because Advantage didn't have any time penalties. Natty G won't finish 8th, he'll finish 9th. So he'll only get 2 points, will Natty, and that might just cost them quite dearly in this championship fight. But what a position we were in there, where the rain didn't fall hard enough until pretty much the last lap. The rain didn't fall hard enough, and that just allowed the strategy to open up as to whether you'd pick the soft tyres or the intermediates. That was fantastic racing. I've not had the opportunity to commentate on that, and I feel quite honoured, it has to be said. But the happiest man will be Ben Roberts, who takes the race win. He didn't get a podium, did Ben last week. He fought really hard for race victories and everything, but he didn't take it. But he's got a win today, and that'll do him no harm at all for the championship fight. But it's Ben Roberts who takes the victory. 25 points going his way. Psycho second with 18 points. Joss in third. Born winner 4th. Watts 5th, and Advantage in 6th place. The Steps comes home in 7th with Money Game, X90G and Billy Misu, the last of point scorers. R. Peter, Dino, Devori and JMB Surreal all survived to the end of the race in those challenging conditions. Kev Potter was classified but 2 laps down. And then retirements from the session, Chris, Predator and Shari not finishing at all. Steps saying his tyres were 75% at the end of the race. I'm not really surprised, Steps. I did feel you'd pitted a bit too early there, but it was worth a gamble. the end of the day, that's what it's about for drivers, making those decisions and learning from them. But that's a good race one, really exciting action. Now we got race 2 coming up, where we'll of course have the one-shot qualifying. Let's see how they get on with that, but we're going to have a little breather here before we go into the second race of the evening. Hopefully a couple of drivers will get the chance to bounce back from their earlier misdemeanors. I'm sure Shari will be looking for something a lot better. Now I'm just having a look here at Shari's on board, because Shari has put a little video. Oh dear. Shari put an onboard video into the group chat, and something very bizarre happened there. He's completely not at fault. I don't know who's caused that incident, but that was very peculiar. He'll be very disappointed, Shari, about that. He does look it. In terms of the driver's standings, whilst we're waiting here at the moment, Psycho will be on, if I'm just working this out correctly, he'll be on 93 points. Josh will now be on 113 points. Ben will move on to 105 points. And Natty G will be on 80. So Natty, if he wants to have a realistic chance of winning this championship, he has to ensure he gets a good result here. But Joss leads the championship by just 8 points at the moment. And then Psycho a further 12 back. So this is all up for grabs. And certainly a lot of strange things can happen in Gavra racing, and it usually does. A couple of comments also coming into the Twitch chat. Money Game, he finished in the points. I think he finished 9th, 8th in that race, saying he hates the rain. So hopefully for race 2 for Money Game, it doesn't rain, or if it does, he's going to be really disappointed. But we'll wait to find out. It's a dry session. Looks like a dry session here for Tier 1 Race 2 qualifying. It's a one-shot qualifying session, of course. So let's see if the drivers can keep it on circuit, keep it laps validated, of course. You don't want to invalidate them, because that means you'll start from the back, and there's a big field of cars in for this evening, 18 drivers. Nobody at all wants to be in a position where they then start to have to fight their way through the field, because Spa is such a big lap, you can lose so much time in the early laps having to pick your way through cars. So here we go then into the qualifying. Everybody now will be trying to pick their braking spot and getting it ready for the approach to the first timing beam, which is on the approach to Les Comet turn 5. Flying through Eau Rouge and Radion are the drivers at the moment. Money Game is retired from the session. Not ideal. Loads of cars changing places, but it's Watts who was briefly at the top. Now it's Joss, now it's Psycho. So we'll wait to see who is going to be the best. Chris now at the top. You just can't get a read on who is going to be the person who's going to take pole position. It's changing corner by corner. It's fascinating to watch the timing tower of all of it going on, but Chris has just got a little bit of a gap at the moment. Not much, but it might just be enough to take pole, providing there's no further mistakes. Yeah, it's practically neck and neck between the top four. They are all exceptionally close to one another. Coming round towards Blanchimont at 200 odd miles an hour. And then they're going to be on the brakes, stamping hard. Let's see who gets the best line through there. And I think it's going to be Chris who's going to take pole here. And it is by, look at that gap, 300ths of a second. Look at all the drivers you have been. All the drivers there who didn't set a valid lap time. And I did mention that before, you know, you don't want to invalidate your lap, you start further down. But it is Chris who gets pole position by 300ths of a second. Ben in second, Psycho third and Yoss is in fourth. Bourne winner fifth with Steps and X90G 6th and 7th. Devori, Billy Misu and Dino rounded out the top 10. Kev Potter and R. Peter are the only two other drivers to set a lap time. The rest of them all invalidated, including the Predator, JMB Surreal, Watts, Money Game, and two drivers that were disqualified, Sherry and Advantage. Not sure why they were disqualified, but there we are. So, race 2 of the evening for Tier 1. And can the drivers ensure for themselves that they get the best start that they need? We could be having a clear race. We're not 100% certain on the weather. But if it is a dry race, we're going to have a cracking fight out on circuit, no doubt about that. We saw that earlier in race 1, loads of on-track action. Can we see it again here in race 2? So it's the Red Bull on the left and the Haas on the right side. Lights about to go out now, and the race is live for Spa race 2. It's a good start from Chris and a good start from Psycho. He's passed Ben Roberts already before we get to turn 1. Psycho trying to go around the outside of Chris as he tried to do in race 1. And he's going to be in a really good position as Psycho to slipstream Chris all the way up towards Les Combes. He's going to run into the back of the Red Bull, and Ben Roberts couldn't overtake there because he ran through, and Psycho might not be close enough to make an overtake on Chris after all of that. Might have just cost himself an opportunity for the race lead. And it's Joss, Bourne winner, Kev Potter running in 6th place. Great start for Kev Potter. Someone's gone round at Les Combes. I think it's Billy Misu, unfortunately. But yeah, what a start for Kev Potter, up 5 places. The Predator also up 6 places, so really good start for those two. Absolute flyer. They've got X90G and Dino pushing them behind further back there. But at the front, so far so good for Chris and one very happy Psycho. And Psycho needs the race win here. He really needs to get a race result because he's in a good position in the championship, but a race victory would really open the battlegrounds right up as Chris starts to romp away in the lead. He's a second clear. And Ben Roberts is thinking, I'm going to go around the outside of it, and goes through. So Ben gets up to second. And I did say that Chris was a second clear, but that's definitely not the case any longer. And Chris having a little snap of oversteer with on the brakes there. Top 6 all running within a second of one another. Great. This is a great showing from Kev Potter. This is the best we've seen of this driver this season, and he's having a great cameo up at the front. Let's hope it stays more than a cameo, because it's good to see him up there. There's a yellow flag. It's gone now, whatever it was. X90G's up to 7th as well, so that's an important move for him. The second driver on the medium tyres in the grid order. Joss is 4th, he's the first of the medium tyre runners. Matty needs to try and just work with Watts to pull away from Dino and the rest of the gang behind, as that group all fall over one another. But Ben still on the back of Chris, as Psycho is just struggling a little bit, I think, at the moment, is Psycho. Maybe he's just taking a lap or two longer to get himself up to speed. There's your race strategies for everybody on the screen that you can see. Well, look, I can see them, I don't know if you can. But in any case, lap 5, we're expecting the soft tyre runners to go into the pits, go to the mediums, run to the end of the race. Just following Joss at the moment, and Psycho is out of DRS range from Ben and Chris, so maybe Chris is setting such a high tempo that only Ben can live with it. And Psycho is just running as best as he can at the moment. And there's a safety car. That is an interesting call. The safety car is out, and the Predator has no front wing. And Chris pits, Psycho pits, Born Winner pits, everyone's going to pit. Ben's carried on, and I fear that that might be the wrong call for Ben. Oh, the 2 Alfa Romeo team. Oh, what are the Alfa Romeo teammates doing? Having an absolute mollycoddle trying to get into the pit lane. And the whole grid, apart from Ben and Joss, have gone into the pits. Now, I understand why Joss has stayed out there, because he's on the medium tyre. The only problem is that if there's no other safety car in this race, both Ben and Joss are going to be disadvantaged by that. This could bring the championship swinging back towards Psycho and maybe even X90G if Ben and Joss don't get the rub of the green with another safety car. They might be scoring some good points, and these two might be losing out. And if they even do pit now, the problem is they've caught the back of the safety car and the rest of the pack are already closing in on them. So Ben and Joss, they might be thinking they've made a little bit of a mistake there. Chris is pitted for the mediums. Kev Potter's gone for the mediums as well, as has Dino in advantage. The Steps is pitted for softs. Steps going to see if he can make the soft tyres last. Well, to be fair, the safety car came out on lap 2. We expect the safety car usually does two laps, comes in at the end of the third, comes in on the 3rd lap. So if we get going on lap 5, the softs would have to do 7 laps. Ooh, you're trying to extend the stint of the soft tyre by 25% there. It's going to be hard, but Steps is willing to give it a go. Let's see if he can do it. The whole grid has pretty much concertinaed up now, apart from the Predator, who I think is the reason behind the safety car for the debris. I'm not sure how he ended up in the wall, but nonetheless, it was his front wing that had to be collected. So, safety car, Ben Roberts following around. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, why doesn't Ben and Josh pit now? Well, if they were to pit now, fine, they wouldn't have to pit again, they wouldn't lose as much time. But the problem is that they would then end up being 17th and 18th place. And they would have to try and then work the way up through the field past everybody in front of them. By the time they did, they'd have lost so much time to the cars at the front that it wouldn't have been worth it. So these two are going to have to hope that another safety car comes out, maybe in a lap or two, well, 3 or 4 laps time, probably for them, so they can build up enough of a gap to the cars behind, and they can make a free pit stop for themselves. But this is going to be interesting. Chris will be the happiest driver, I think, of everybody at the moment who's in this top 5 fight, because he's already pitted, he's on the medium tyres, they'll make it to the end with no problem at all. Psycho and Born Winner, who are on the hard tyres, in fact a lot of people who are on the hard tyres, they'll make it to the end, but they won't be as quick as the mediums. Kev Potter, and I'm going to say this quietly, don't count him out. He's had a good start so far, running in 6th place. Don't forget, he started, I believe he was started in 11th place. He's in a good position, and Watts is also in a good position, but he's on the hard tyre. Watts has come up from 15th on the grid after having his lap time invalidated. So he's had a very good time in that Williams. Natty G on the hard tyres as well, and he's already had experience of the hard, so he'll know how to race on them. Everyone else around him, they won't have that luxury. So we should get a notification from the safety car when it passes over the Sector 2 split point that it will be coming in this at the end of this lap, you would expect. And we'll be ready to go racing again. And there you go, safety car in this lap. So Ben Roberts now becomes the Effecto leader. And he'll have to set the tempo in terms of when will he go and how quickly can he pull away from the cars behind him. Don't forget his soft tyres have only done the best part of a lap and a bit before the safety car came out. So when does he decide to go? He goes now. That wasn't a bad restart from Ben. The brakes down into 2nd gear for Joss. I'm just following with Joss. But Ben will clearly lead over the line, and he's got a good exit from the corner, so this could just work out for Ben. Don't forget, we've had the safety car, so DRS isn't enabled until we get to lap 7. So Ben won't be as vulnerable down the back straight as he would have been typically if we were under normal racing conditions. But Chris did not get the best of restarts there. He's under pressure from Psycho. And Psycho's going to have the slipstream. Chris goes defensive to the inside. And Psycho's going to have to try and brake a little bit later, but I don't think he's going to be able to work that one, and he doesn't. He has to just sit behind Chris for the time being. Born Winner trying to look at a move as well. Born Winner showed last week in Austria he was very quick on the hard tyre. So definitely one to watch in the McLaren. Ben Roberts is almost out of DRS range. He's used this restart perfectly. Let's see if he can now get out of the DRS range, because that would be vital for him. He wouldn't have to worry about the cars fighting behind either. In fact, Chris has pulled the 2nd on Psycho already, so it's going to prove what I was saying before, that the medium tyres, they're not going to have any problems running to the end of this race. Got another yellow flag out there, and I think it's the Predator, who's gone off again. And Joss pits. Well, Joss deciding that that's enough of that. He needs to get his soft tyres on. It was Predator who went round again, by the way, because of the yellow flag, and broke his front wing again. But Ben now has a 2nd advantage to Chris, who's going to be the race leader when Ben eventually pits. Psycho in 3rd place. Born Winner there in 4th. Kev Potter just trying to hang on to DRS range, but he's just lost it. And Watts is going to fly on by. He's a little bit of the grass to go past. Psycho and Born Winner are side by side down the main straight, but Psycho will fend off the McLaren for now. But Born Winner is one to watch on these hard tyres. He just seems to have them dialed in. Ah, Ben Roberts has spun. Ben Roberts has spun on the exit of Malmedy. And absolute tragedy befalls Ben Roberts. And he will now, when he does pit, he's going to be last. And that points chances game over for him, unfortunately. Predator, well, I say last, but Predator's spun again. So Chris leads the way. and is probably on his way to a race victory, to be honest, because he's absolutely flying. Then it's Psycho, then it's Born Winner. Watts is fourth. Watts looking to get another podium to add to his race win last week. And Kev Potter is up there in fifth place. Regardless of what happens, Kev Potter has had a great day of racing today. It's the most competitive I've seen him in this championship, and it's really good to see him up there. Hopefully he can keep within DRS and just stick with them. But we will wait and find out. So, DRS now enabled. Chris, 2 seconds clear of Psycho. Doesn't have to think about that battle anymore. And Born Winner and Watts are going to be thinking, how do we get past Psycho? Because he's looking a little bit vulnerable on those hard tyres. And can we get past him? I think Born Winner's going to get Psycho here. Here we go, DRS. What an overspeed that is for the McLaren. He flies on through. And he takes second place. Yellow flag in sector 3, that's Predator. And there's a safety car again. Wow. Well, that has just spared the blushes of Ben Roberts. And this is a decision now for everybody. Safety car has come out again. We will get running again on lap 9. But does anybody... I don't think anyone in the top 10 is anybody going to be brave enough to risk track position to go for the soft tyres. 2 drivers who are already on the softs are the Steps and Joss, who just pitted the lap before. And Joss must be kicking himself now at that, because if he'd have pitted now, he wouldn't have lost half as much time. So that's unfortunate for Joss. But will anybody be brave enough to make that decision, I wonder? You'd think those that are on the hards, they might be more tempted to go for it. I don't think Chris will. Let's just watch and see if anybody pits at the top 5. No. Natty G sort of faked to go in the pits, but he didn't. And Devori is making that decision. So Devori thinks, I'm going to get a set of soft tyres on. Everybody outside of the top 10 is doing exactly that. Now Joss is going to get up to 11th place, I think, here. Because everyone else is going into the pits. He might get out in front of Devori. It's going to be... Yeah, he will get out in front of Devori. So Joss is going to be 11th. There's all sorts of carnage happening with the safety car at the moment. And Ben Roberts has gone back into the pits, and he's going to put another set of soft tyres on. So how many places can Ben Roberts make up with 2 laps? I don't know, but he'll try his hardest. So, 2 safety cars, which is exactly what Ben and Joss wanted, but neither of them were able to take advantage of it. And if Ben hadn't have spun and carried on for another lap, you'd feel that he'd be in the best place right now, but it isn't the case. And Chris no longer has a safety margin that he did once have either, because Born Winner is a very quick driver. He showed that last week in Austria, where he could have won both races. He had the pace to win both races. He just picked up a time penalty in the first one, and that stopped him from getting it. But his hard tyre was impressive, really impressive. Psycho's also there. He'll be crossing everything he can to make sure he gets a good launch out of the last corner to try and attack someone into turn number 5 at Les Combes. Kev Potter still running in the top 5. Natty G will be hoping to just try and squeeze his way into the top 5, try and get past Kev. Dino's there, Advantage is there. The Steps, who's on tyres that have done maybe 2 laps on the softs, he'll be one to watch as well. But what progress can Joss make in these last 2 laps? It's going to be chaotic. Someone's going to have an incident, but there won't be any more safety cars after this, everyone. This will be it. Ooh, this could go any way. No one can be assuming to have this race victory. The safety car is just not causing problems, but I think because of the way that the safety car is quite slow, it's just backing the pack up. The driver's just setting a new fastest lap of a 2:40. When I say fastest lap, that was irony, of course. But we're just behind the safety car. The Aston Martin going around the track, a 2:40 for the Aston Martin round here. Shows you how quick the Formula One cars are on a long circuit such as this compared to a, whilst I wouldn't call it a standard road car, I would call it a road car of that form. Chris has to follow it patiently. And he will be setting the pace when we come out of the exit of the second sector, which is only a few corners away. Do notice that Chris does that. He does tend to go up on the grass for reasons unknown on the exit of turn 9. Born winner Psycho and Watts, born winner especially, working hard to keep those tyres up to temperature. The hard tyres are difficult to get switched on. No more DRS, remember, to the end of this race now. So, safety car is in this lap, and Chris will now set the tempo for the remaining part of the lap. And the question is, when will Chris choose to go? He doesn't want to get caught out. And Chris just doing a couple of sort of meditated burnouts, really, just getting his rear tyres up to temperature. Safety car is now only reaching the source, so Chris could go from this point onward if he wanted to. And he goes now on the exit of Blanchimont. That's his time to do it. The question is, can... Oh, Psycho's gone round. Psycho's lost it, and he's dropped to 8th. Wow, have you ever... Well, that was a chance for him, but he's absolutely dropped it. And Watts nearly loses it on the exit of turn 1. So it's a straight shootout now between Born Winner and Chris for the race lead. But having said that, Chris is 6/10 clear. Can Born Winner get anywhere near the back of that Red Bull? He's going to close the gap down, but he's not going to be close enough. Natty G's up to 4th. He gets past Kev Potter. That's an important move for Natty. Wow, this race has just been turned on its head. Psycho up to 6th. There's a yellow flag out there, and that's Dino who's gone round. Joss is up to 8th. So the soft tyre runners are coming into our own. Look at Joss going for 7th. This is a man on a mission on those soft tyres. He could see Psycho in front of him on compound tyres that are 2 steps harder than what he's on. Devori's gone round as well. And Psycho trying to go around the outside of Kev Potter for 4th place. He's done just that. And Psycho's going to follow him through as well. But fair play to Kev. He's not giving this up at all. And Kev keeps the position for now. And he does indeed. But he leaves the door just a little bit open. But will have the momentum off the corner to stay in front. But Kev is... Oh, Kev's lost it. He's lost it. He's round. Oh, that's a shame. But Kev's gone. The steps and Billy Misu make contact. That was very, very dangerous between the two of them. Joss has got up to 6th, and Psycho's now looking at Natty G for 4th place On the brakes around the outside, that's a great move. Natty just trying to hold the line, but he can't do much about it, and Natty drops to 5th. And you feel that's going to become 6th with Joss as well right behind him. Now, fair play to Born Winner. We're on the last lap. He's right there with Chris. He's not far away from him at all. I said this would be a frenetic end to this race. It'd be frantic, and Natty is just in front of Joss. He's got to try and do everything he can to hold on to that 5th place. But he's got the slipstream. He's underneath the rear wing of the McLaren. It's going to be difficult. Ben Roberts is in the top 10 as well as we speak. So Ben is going to score a point. And the Steps is going around the outside of the Aston Martin for 7th place. So loads of action wherever you look on circuit. It's another yellow flag. I'm not surprised there are this many yellow flags. Everyone's going for it. And they don't really care about the consequences as Billy Meesey flies off the road. There's so much going. Ben Roberts is up to 8th. Last I looked at him, he was 10th. So Ben is putting the work in here to try and get back into the points paying positions. A good set of points, I mean, as well. But we are only a couple of corners away from the finish. And Yoss is right up behind Psycho. Advantage is out. And our piece has gone with him. Oh, look at Joss. He's going to get 4th from Psycho. Well, who would have thought that? But I'm going to cut forward to Chris, who's coming round the final corners now. And Chris is going to take the race victory. Here for race 2 at Spa, it's Chris who wins. Born Winner takes 2nd. Watts finishes 3rd for a podium. Joss recovers to 4th. What a drive that is. Psycho is 5th, Pen Roberts is 6th, and X-Natty G is 7th. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is just an example of how everything can change in Gavra, and it usually does. That was absolutely fantastic to watch. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Watts gets driver of the day, and that's rightfully so, because he started 15th, did Watts. To finish 3rd is really impressive from the Williams driver. Chris will be up there celebrating, happy with that. But let's run through the top 10 and the rest of the finishes. Chris wins the race and gets fastest lap, so he gets the point for that as well. Born Winner 2nd, another podium for the Swede. Watts gets the final podium, but started 15th, so well done to him. That's a great drive. Yoss, after being 11th 2 laps ago, ended up 2 laps before the end, was 11th. He ends up finishing 4th. Psycho 5th, Ben Roberts 6th, X90G 7th, the Steps in 8th, Money Game 9th, and Shari gets a point for Ferrari. AlphaTauri driver JMB Surreal is 11th with Billy Meese and Devori 12th and 13th. Kev, unfortunately losing the back end. He had such a good run, but he finishes 14th. Arpita retired, but is classified as his advantage, and Dino, the Predator, who crashed out and caused both safety cars, retired earlier on in the race. Well, we've got one more race coming next week in Las Vegas, but we've got the interviews to go on to, and I'm sure the drivers will have a lot to say about that shortly, so we'll have a chat with them. And I'm looking forward to this chat with the drivers. I'm quite excited to see what their thoughts are. There are now only 4 drivers who can mathematically win the championship next week, which are Joss, Ben, Psycho, and X-Natty G. X-Natty G has an outside chance of winning the championship, does Natty, but he's going to have to rely on a little bit of luck to go his way, as he's on 86 points. Joss is on 125, so you can see there's a bit of a gap between himself and Natty G. But we'll go over to the interview area, see what the drivers have to say about what went on in that race, and we will get the thoughts of what final 2 laps were like for a few people. There's a lot of arguing going on already in the comments, which is hysterical, as it always is when people get upset. Which I can understand that, of course. And Psycho is saying that actually he got hit, that's what caused him to go round. But we've still got a couple of other people who are waiting to come in and join in the chat area. We've got a couple of people in the interview area, so let's make a start. I'll go with our race 2 winner, why not, to start off with then, which is TGT Chris, or as he was formerly known, I believe, as Viper. I'm almost at this point now unsure to whether to call you Chris or Viper at this point, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear loud and clear.
Are we calling you Chris or Viper from now on?
You call me Chris, I don't really mind.
Well, we'll go with Chris because you've took a race win today. How difficult was that for you, or was it easy?
Of course it wasn't really easy with not a lot of practice, and of course I didn't really know about this because, you know, I've not signed up for it originally, so it was just a quick replacement at the end of the season. So it was a very difficult race to keep all these very fast drivers, especially in qualifying. For the first time, it was really difficult to get a good lap in the wet because, you know, I didn't really practice or get any solid knowledge of what I should push, or, you know, it was really difficult. But I kept myself, and I knew, took the positives out of qualifying. Of course, the race didn't go to plan with the incident on that floor, but it does happen. It is really hard racing between me and Psycho, but yeah, it does happen a lot, which I understand. But yeah, it is really close racing on front, and also it was just difficult getting used to everything back again, as I had a bit of a 12-week break stint. But yeah, it was very difficult. But from race 2, I carried the pace and I managed to get out DRS. Oh no, actually did not get DRS, but Ben was really close to me behind. So I had to just hold him off for the back 3 and also defend from him because he really wanted to overtake me, I think. So I tried to defend from him and keep my position, which I did until a safety car came out for the first time, which was quite surprising because considering I'm on the soft and go to the mediums to the end, and also other drivers like Psycho, Born Winner, who went on the hard really interestingly. But I think going on to the mediums really showed that I won this race, and if I did go on the hard, it would have probably been a very different outcome.
I mean, I mean, you're right in saying that, you know, both races were sort of two sides of a coin for yourself, Chris. So, you know, the disappointment of race 1 is replaced by the elation of race 2. You've now got next week's track at Las Vegas. I'm going to ask you this more than the other drivers because this is a track that I've spoken to a lot of people about, and they're not really sure in terms of, you know, whether it's a difficult track for them or whether it's going to be easy. Have you done much in terms of mileage around there, and is it a good track? Do you like it? Do you enjoy it?
I mean, it is quite mixed faults. I have done some time trial there today. I will go around a very solid lap 200, things like top 200 in the world, but of course I can improve on that. But by the practice from that, I do feel quite mixed, especially turn 1. It's really difficult. You have to be really cautious with the throttle and the load you get with the car. So I think for the race, it's going to be absolutely chaotic. There's going to be a lot of incidents, I believe, because it is a very chaotic circuit, but also invites a lot of overtakes. that very, very long straight. So you need to have a really low downforce car. You can't really focus on downforce around the circuit, on high downforce. I mean by that, but I think I feel okay. I think I will do quite well, but it's just if I can get everything up to plan and everything all together, I can do really well. But I think it will be a very interesting one, and of course the championship, which I'm not going to be in, of course, the fight, but it seems really interesting with a lot of incidents as well at the end of the second safety car. So I think there's going to be a lot of tension with the championship with Josh Psycho and Ben Roberts, I believe. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, for Las Vegas, which is a very, very, very difficult circuit and very easy to overtake.
Well, appreciate that, Chris. Well done on your race victory today, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to seeing you race around Las Vegas next week.
Thank you. See you. Have a nice night.
Cheers, mate. I'm going to go over to Watts next because I feel like Watts deserves a chance to have a chat about that driver of the day going from 15th to 3rd. Watts, you can unmute your mic, and hopefully you can hear me whilst I'm talking. But that was a great race for you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, it was alright. I mean, first race had my setup was completely off. It was during the wet qualifier, and I put like loads of downforce on, and it said on the radar that the race was going to be wet all race. So I thought I'll just keep it like that. But then it turned out to be dry, so I was an absolute bus on the straight. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, that first race was very peculiar because of how the rain didn't fall quite hard enough until maybe the last 2 laps. So the drivers, I don't know if you experienced this actually, but the drivers who'd come out and put a set of soft or mediums on were as quick as the intermediates. Did you see that?
I mean, midfield sort of pack, I was sort of getting through them, but towards the front, Psycho and
Mm.
all those lot, they were just getting away with the dry tyres.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, for this race though, the one where you finished 3rd, I know you invalidated your lap time, which stopped you from qualifying higher, but you must be pleased to have got through the field the way that you did.
I mean, yeah, I think in it, whenever somebody does that, they're always got to be happy. But I didn't feel I had amazing pace, but it was getting towards the end of the race, and luckily the safety car come out, and that sort of brought everyone together.
It did, and it's got you a podium, so you know that's happy days for yourself. I have one more question because I've asked it to Chris who's just left. I'll ask it to you. What do you make of Las Vegas? A track you like or a track you're just not sure on?
I mean, I've only gone through around it a few times. Really, it's just sort of a low down source track. I mean, I think it's going to be a very big DRS train. I think everyone's going to be sort of equal through the last 2 sectors, and it's going to be a massive train, and it's going to be hard to get past, I reckon.
Well, that is going to be interesting to commentate on. But thanks anyway, Watts. Well done today on your 3rd place. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, it is, mate.
So I'm going to move it over to our race 1 winner this evening, which was Ben Roberts. Ben, you can unmute your mic. Hopefully you can hear me. Good stuff. That race 1 was absolutely chaotic and frenetic for you three at the front. Tell me about it from your end.
Yeah, it was really close, to have myself, Psycho, and Yost right up there fighting pretty much the whole race. I think definitely at the start of the stint when I'd pitted for mediums, I was a bit slow. I think I got the undercut on Yost because my tyres were just so worn, and I was actually running a bit more downforce. That as soon as the rain came out, I was a little bit quicker. And I was able to kind of get the inters into the right kind of window, and they just felt quicker than the softs, at least that was on before, because they were about 60% by that point. And then I thought if I just save a bit of ERS, I was able to stay close to Psycho. Obviously, I would have been in the net lead, but he overtook me when I was fighting Born Winner as well. I found it really difficult to get past him. I'm not sure whether he was on worn mediums or whether he'd pit. But yeah, I just couldn't seem to get past him. I think he did eventually box. But yeah, just managed to save that ERS and then get him on the last couple of laps. I knew I'd have the pace to get past on the straight.
Yeah, Born Winner was actually in the lead. He'd pitted earlier than anybody and went to
Oh, right.
mediums. So he's Born Winner does look like the type of person who I think at some point will have a race victory. It's just a case of when rather than if at this point.
Yeah.
But more back to the point, Ben, that race victory looked like you could have had a second one, but then the safety car came out, and I think you made the decision that kind of put you on the back foot.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the wrong call. I think myself and Jost, in hindsight, definitely would have pit. I knew that I'd have to go onto the mediums, and I thought at lap 3, either going on the hards, you'd be really slow compared to other drivers that might have pit. But then I guess you got track position, and you'd hope that you'd pull a gap. It is definitely the wrong call. But then I thought I could pull a gap on the soft. Was probably pushing a bit too hard, and then had that spin. It was just coming out of the Lacom section, and yeah, it just obviously set my race off horribly. I think the safety car saved me really to be able to make some positions back, but I think the gap now will be about 12 points to Jost in the championship because I gained 10 in the first race. It was 18. So it should have been sliced to 8, and then he got 4 points on me in that second race. So if I hadn't have had that spin, I think I'd have come out ahead of Jost, and then would have been challenging at the end on that safety car. I probably would have pitted again for softs like I did, but I think I would have been a bit higher up. It was hard to fight through, but there was a lot of collisions ahead, so got a bit lucky to make my way through the field.
Yeah, your maths isn't wrong on that. I've got the championship standings live in front of me. I work them out as I go along. Unfortunately, Psycho's actually just joined the lobby, so hopefully Yos and Psycho, you're just listening to this bit. Don't worry, you don't need to unmute yourselves. The championship standings at the moment are as follows. Joss is on 125. Ben, you're on 113. Psycho, you're on 103. So you three realistically have a very good chance of winning the championship. X90G is the other driver who can also win the championship, but he's on 86, so he's 39 points further back. You've got Las Vegas next week, Ben. Do you think you could take the title? Because it's you and Joss again going for the championship, almost reminiscent of the Tier 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, I was in the Ferrari at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely given me flashbacks to back then. Obviously, Psycho wasn't fighting in that championship, but yeah, I mean, going into the last round, I've just got to give it everything. There's still 2 more races, obviously, as well as I think if there was one, it'd be a lot more challenging. I think Vegas is going to be challenging. There's that kind of technical first sector where you do need a bit more downforce, but then on the straight you have to have the low downforce. So it's just going to be a bit of a compromise there. And then obviously we've got Viper or Chris as he's named as now, who's going to be right there. So I think there's a good 4 or 5 drivers, or maybe more, that's going to be stuck in that DRS train fighting for the win. So it's all going to be about kind of managing your ERS, managing the tires, and getting the best strategy there. But I think I'm in a good place to challenge for it. But yeah, Jos is looking very quick.
Well, thank you, Ben. Well done on your race win today, and all the best for next week.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Josh for a chat. So, Josh, you can unmute yourself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening. 2 sets of decent results for you tonight. Perhaps not what you wanted, but are you pleased with how it turned out in the end?
Yes and no. I knew that there was more into it. Like, could have gotten more than a P3 and a P4. In the first race, I forgot to lower my tire pressure for the race. That's why I was overheating a little bit my tires. Yeah, and then I was very confused with the rain. Because normally you have the the DRS disabled sign at the top, but yeah, that wasn't coming. But then yeah, I could stay with them. Made a few mistakes, which cost me yeah, maybe a higher position in race 1, and yeah, race 2, as Ben said, we should have boxed. Don't think the softs would have gone to the end, but yeah, lucky that a few people crashed and that I was still able to get a P4.
You must be happy that you were able to recover from that pitting at that point, because you know it looked like without that safety car, it looked like you weren't going to score points at all.
Yeah, indeed. I think Ben as well. We were both hoping for a safety car, and then it came. I hoped also that more people were going to pit, but then for the championship, I got lucky that Psycho got taken out, which is unfortunate for him, but good for me. Yeah, let's see next week what it brings, and yeah, the gap is only 12 points. So yeah.
Do you think you can take the championship now? Because you're 12 points clear. Do you think you can do it?
Still need to put in a lot of practice for Las Vegas. But yeah, as I said before, why not? Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just go for it and then see what it gives.
Well, all the best for next week, Josh, and decent results today. Well done on those.
Thank you, Jack.
No worries, mate. I'm going to go over to Psycho, so hopefully you can hear me, Psycho. You can unmute your mic.
Yeah, I'm here.
I would imagine that you are probably the most frustrated person in this chat this evening. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What happened at that? Because I've seen that you've been taken out. What exactly happened? Because I was watching, and the next thing I know is I see your car facing the wrong way before we go into the bus stop chicane.
Yeah. I don't really know, to be honest. I was preparing my restart. I think I timed it well. I was gonna go, well, not side by side, but like a little bit towards the right of Born Winner, so that the guy behind me couldn't like lunge down the inside. It compromised me a bit, but I still was gonna get a good run on Born Winner going into the chicane because I had a little bit more downforce for the corners. And then, yeah, next thing I know, I'm facing the wrong way, which isn't ideal. I'm not sure who hit me. I think it was Kev Potter, but yeah, to be honest, I just want to forget about the whole race too.
Well, you've got the rest of the interview to get through yet, so let's see how you do with that, Psycho. Let's talk about race 1 though, because you were one of the 2 brave ones who decided to go out there on softs whilst it was raining. I've got to say, it was a pretty inspired call that nearly paid off. How did you feel in the wet conditions using the soft Pirellis? Were they working for you?
Yeah, they were. I had a lot more grip, which was surprising. First of all, I pitted for the softs on accident because
thought-
I'm Mercedes. Because I'm Mercedes, when I go into the pit box, the box is like the second one, I think. Red Bull's first. Mercedes is the second one, so I didn't have enough time to switch to intermediates, and it put me on softs. But I did have a lot more grip, and I was able to overtake a few more cars. But on the last 2 laps, yeah, the slow speed, it was absolutely killing me. I wasn't able to get the power down, and I could just see Ben had a lot more grip. But I feel like in the high speed corners, I still had some grip in the softs. But yeah, it's just the low speed corners where I was really struggling, and almost got overtaken by Jos on the line at the end.
Yeah, it was very close between you 2 on the line. But above all, the end of the day, when I look at the points that you've gained today compared to Joss, it's not many that you've gained on him, but the fact is that you've still outscored him. You're 22 points behind with 50 on offer next week. I'd say you've got a realistic chance of winning the championship, but do you think you've got a chance of winning the championship?
Not really, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really in the championship fight. I'm just going to go into next week with a clean slate. I'm not going to think about the championship. I'm just going to think about trying to win the race. And if I happen to win the championship, that's a good thing. But to be honest, I'm not really thinking about that anymore. I think it's a bit unrealistic. But if it happens, then it happens.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a mindset where you can take the pressure off you, because obviously being in third, the pressure's on the front
Yeah.
2. So you're sort of in a quite niche position to be in, which is quite decent for yourself. But I know that both Joss and Ben will be working out on their calculators between races in terms of what the points are. And having a chat with the other drivers earlier today and the last few days, they've all been saying the same thing, that we're expecting a DRS train. But I've noticed in your seasons when you've been racing with Gavra that you do tend to thrive on those sort of chaotic style races. Do you think that might play into your hands a little bit more when it's all packed together?
Yeah, I think that's where I think that's one of my strong points. In fact, where everyone's just together, maybe after like a safety car restart, maybe, or just when it's a bit more chaotic. Obviously not today, but sometimes it goes my way. Today it didn't go my way, but yeah, I think that. And I'd also say my race starts. I think that's a very underrated and underlooked aspect of my. Oh, I
You
don't
did
really
get
know
the
what
lead
it's called.
as well, yeah.
Yeah. I think in every one of the races, I've had like an amazing launch, which I've practiced quite a bit because my launch on F1 2022 was really bad. So I had to practice that. And I think that's what also helps me in the races. And I know I've got that trick up my sleeve. But yeah, not a bad weekend. Not sure where I would have been if the safety car would have come out. I think I would have been leading the championship or just behind Yoss, I think, if the safety car didn't come out. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm happy with my performance this season, and yeah, it's just unlucky.
Well, well done on today's results, even if they weren't quite what you wanted in any case, and all the best for next week.
Yep, thanks. Cheers. Have a good day.
You too, Psycho. So
Cheers.
we'll go over to the man who's always here and is always patient to wait. It's the Steps, who had quite a bit of a mixed bag in race 1 and race 2, but Steps will tell it from his perspective. How are you doing, Steps?
Hey Jake, yeah, it's yeah, I'm good. Always here to steal the show at the end. So yeah, I'm great.
Your race 1 seemed to go quite well, didn't it? I mean, I think you were struggling with the tyres towards the end, but you were running as high as 5th, I believe, at one point.
Yes, I made a gamble in the pit strategy I had planned. I pit for the intermediates uh, a little too early than I did, and at the end I had I was a sector away from punctures. But yeah, I feel like if the rain was a little bit denser, I think that the slick tires would lose the grip a lap or two sooner, and I would be able to at least catch up to the guys who didn't pit pointers. But yeah, I took a gamble. It is what it is. It's still points. I'll take it, and yeah.
How did you find the restart of the second race? Because you were on the soft tyres, but it just looked as if there was so much chaos going on in the midfield that you were just sort of trying to survive more than anything.
Yeah, it was kind of a survival instinct out there. Uh, I don't. There was so much going on. I don't even remember everything. Uh, yeah, it was chaos. I cannot pick a certain moment that I would tell right now. No,
Well,
it's.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I cannot remember.
that's all right. That's fine. We've got one more race next week, which is at Las Vegas. It's a track that people sort of know, but not haven't really particularly trialed going round there. Have you done much practice around their steps? And if you have, do you like the track, or do you just think it's going to be DRS train all the way?
I actually haven't tried the Las Vegas track yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I did like one or two five lappers with money game and etc. But as a actual practice in time trial, for example, I actually didn't do any laps. So no, I currently don't know what to expect. If it's gonna be DRS trains or something else. but I don't know why I get a strong Sochi vibes from that track,
Hmm.
which is I think it's a bad sign, but maybe it's just me. But from the looks of it, I feel like it's gonna be something like Monza, with a little bit more of tight cornering and uh, less space for mistakes.
Yeah. Well, in any case, Steps, one more race to go, but well done on the results this evening, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, I'm always glad to be here. Thank you, and see you next week.
See you next week. Well, that is it for today's action, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a lot of chaos and intrigue all the way through the Belgian Grand Prix here with Gavra for Tier 1. I'm Jack TM53, your commentator, as always, for both Tier 1 and Tier 2. Next week, as you've already heard, we'll be heading to the Strip in Las Vegas, and boy, will that prove to be quite a spectacle, shall we say, in terms of slipstreaming action, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of overtakes. But that is it for today. We'll be back next week, and wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one. See you soon.